Hey, it's your boy Jack Kubert, and today in this video, I'm going to be going over my very first critique. I currently average 9 to 10 seconds, so if you're interested in also getting an average of 5 critique, go ahead and send me a message on my Instagram at Professor Creatine. And if you're trying to get to sub 15, this video is just for you. Now let's get right into the very first solve. All right, so for the very first solve, you started with yellow on top of red, and these were all your white cross edges over here. And the way you did this was like this. But something you could have done much better for this cross was R prime F. Those were really good moves. And instead of doing LR like that, you were better off inserting the white orange edge piece first, since you already brought this down here. And then now these are on opposites, these are on opposites. All you have to do is D, L prime R, D2. And that would have just saved you that one extra move, making your cross more efficient. And now for your very first pair, you did this case over here, which is, you did a U2, which is like very unstandard. You separated it with R prime UR and then inserted these like normal. But something better you could have done was that we all know that this case sucks. So this is not something we would want to start off with. And a matter of fact, something even easier was this case over here, where all you had to do was that U2 and then insert this like normal. And look, because I chose something better, this gave me a better case to do with that orange-blue pair. Just a free pair right there. And this is just something I like to do for this case alone. So let's say you do spot this first, you're not really looking anywhere else as a first pair. So what you could do is insert this edge, L, U prime, L prime. And then now all you have to do is a keyhole, which is D, bringing this orange blue cross edges over here, inserting this, and then doing D prime. And now for your very second pair, I like how you went for this pair over here. And the reason why is because you get the left slots all done, making it a lot easier to do this slot, since it's all RU moves, 2-gen in other words. But the way you ended up doing it was like this, RU R prime, which brought this edge over here. You end up rotating it and then inserting it like normal this way. But something much better that you could have done was exactly from this angle, non-rotationless. If you notice this has to go over here, leaving this corner over here, you could do a sledgehammer. This automatically makes a 3-mover, putting it over here, and then you could have solved this and it would have been much easier that way. For the very third pair, you went with this case again, but this was definitely much better. But you end up rotating this way, which is good that you rotated towards the back, and you did the standard insert like this. So as I already mentioned previously, this case is not good. It has a very high move count, so you should definitely look for something else to do. And something much better to do was the orange and green pair. Over here, the white sticker is pointing out this way, and a nice little trick you could do from here is when you see this case, you could do R, U2, R prime. This automatically makes this 3-move insert, put it over here. And now for the very last pair, something that you did was, for this case, you put the corner on top of the edge, and then you did a L, U2, L prime, U2, L, and then you did the standard algorithm for this case. But something way better that you could have done was L prime, UL. This would have given you a 3-mover. And then now from here, since you have your 2 edges right over here, you have a hook, you could just sledge this and you could have had a cross on top. You had this OLL case, and something you did was regrip, which you should not be doing. You regripped, did this, and then you had to regrip again in order to do that M slice. Okay, so something you should have done instead is keeping your hand on home grip, and you could either do a pull U or a push. I prefer push, but push sexy, and then now you already have your hand over here to do the M prime and finish the OLL. And last but not least, for PLL, it was really good. You did the standard AUG, We are on solve 2. And these were all the white cross edges over here. And the way you went about this was like this. This wasn't a bad cross solution necessarily, but there was a lot better. So really make sure you're checking other angles that you could do the cross in. And this is what I found to be the best, since you already have these on opposites, and this would just suck to stack on top and doing back moves. You could have done this, inserting this edge first, R prime, U prime, R prime, F. You just have this edge left, make that space, and then insert like normal. For the very first pair, you ended up going with the orange and blue. You did a U prime, and then did this, R prime, U2, R. And now the problem with this is that you rotate it this way, inserting towards the front. Now, even though it sets you up for this is very easy to spot. Typically, it gives you a blind spot for everything else. It would have been a lot easier if you would have inserted towards back, because now you get to see all these other 3 free slots and including the stuff on the top as well. Although that was the very first pair you saw, I believe the better solution should have been going over the orange-green, because you could have just simply paired it up like this and then rotated, insert towards the back. And look, it also gives you a 3 mover. That's really nice. Now, let's just say this was the only case you were really gonna go for. The better solution for this case would have been Y prime, U2, and then you could have paired them up like this and then insert it towards the back like this. The very second pair, as I said, this case already showed this was already paired up together. I would have assumed this would have been easier to spot, and you could have just simply inserted towards the back, leaving you your right slots only. But instead, you ended up doing a U6, which is really a U2, and you did the standard insert for this case, which kind of sucked only because this is all front pairs, but luckily all your other cases are on the top. But this is typically really bad, because just in case there's other pairs in its slot instead. Very third pair, you end up getting this 3 mover here, and you did U2, and then you rotated towards the front again, which was another problem. But again, luckily we still have this pair on top that you already know what case it's gonna be, and you inserted it like this. This may be a little bit more advanced, but so seeing this and this pair, which you do need look ahead for in order to peep this, but in order to be sub 15, you don't need look ahead. You just need to be able to spot your cases a little bit faster and just have tighter efficiency. But I notice if I end up rotating to solve this pair, I would also have to rotate to have a good solution for this one. So what I would do here is something like this, and then use the F wide algorithm to do the 3 mover. And then from here, I'll just solve this like normal. This very fourth pair, what you did was typically the right thing to do, which since this slot is open, you could just straight up break it apart like this for this 3 mover. And then you did the F wide insert, which saved you the rotation. Just know that anytime you see 3 edges, you want to stick to the most standard solution for your algorithms, just so you know you can have a cross on top. So this would have just kept the cross on top, giving you a much better last layer. You ended up getting the same exact Olo, which you finger tricked the same exact way you did previously, and your G perm was really good, so no judgment about that. Now getting into your very third solve, these were all your cross edges over here, and you ended up doing R, F prime, L, D prime, and then where you messed up was you didn't take advantage that everything else was connected, and you ended up doing something like you did F, L2, F, D2, L, D2, which just killed the number of moves you really could have had. And something much better you could have done was R, F prime, L, D prime, and then you could have done your L2 first, and then after you do your R prime, your fingers are already here to double flick that F2. making your cross a lot faster. Not much critique for the very first two pairs, but you did go for this one, and I think it would have been better to have done it this way because these would have connected, and then when you separate them and then insert, this will still stay safe. But instead, you did it from here, broke it apart, inserted like this, and then you ended up seeing this case, and then you put it over here, and then inserted like normal. So yep, those two were really good. Now, I really want to go over this third pair. I think this would have been better to do, and then it would have been much easier to insert towards the back, but you did see this first. But I'm not the biggest fan with the way you did it. You did it like this, you put it over here, separated it out like this, put it back here, and then did the standard solution for that case. For this case, it's a very simple solution, especially since this back slot is open. All you had to do was R prime U R in order to break it up, and then insert it towards the front like this, and that would have been much better. And now for your very fourth F2L case, you ended up doing U prime 3, which definitely slowed you down a bit, and then you ended up taking this out like this, putting it towards the back, and then solving it normal. When you have this case towards the back, there's two ways to do this, but since this corner was right over here, the best thing you could have done was inverse sexy, and then insert, which would have definitely been better on the TPS. Last layer, you end up putting the soon over here, and what I didn't like that you did was this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then once you got up over here, you double flicked like this instead of doing the regular index middle and then bringing it back down. So yeah, really work on that finger trick of just using that double flick for your U2s. And then you ended up getting an R perm, no AUF. We're on to the fourth solve. These were all your cross edges over here, and you ended up doing R, D, F, D2, F prime, D2. It wasn't a bad cross, but it wasn't too finger trick friendly either, but I found something that was pretty solid. So what I think would have been a lot better was if you started off with an L instead of an L prime and then doing a D2, because if you would have done that D2 and then here, it would have put this edge here, and then you would have to rely on a back move, which wouldn't have been fun. So instead, doing a L, D2, this aligns over here, and then when you do that L prime, it will stack onto that orange, and then D prime, F prime would have completed your cross. And so now for your very first pair, you ended up doing U prime, pairing this pair up. I don't think this is a very bad pair to do. I also saw this one as a really good one, but this is also pretty good, so I can't judge that. But you decided to do this non-rotationless, and then you ended up solving it like this. So again, I don't think what you did was bad at all, but personally, I would have done a U prime, had this pair facing me, and then inserted it towards the back like that. I think it's just a lot faster turning for that case. But besides that, it was really good. And then for the second pair, really good. You spotted this. You got a little bit jump scared, but you got it. Good on you. Your very third case, you ended up doing this case over here, and you ended up doing it like this. You did many U's right afterward, but then you inserted it like this. The better way you could have solved this case was doing that U prime, and then doing R, U prime, R prime in order to pair it up, and then turn over this way in order to insert towards the back. And now for the fourth pair, you did it pretty good, which was just this, the very standard insert. Ololo, you ended up getting an Ololo that you didn't know, and you decided to use Tuluk, but this is actually pretty easy. It's just L prime, U prime, L, U prime, and then sledge, and then you're just inserting this pair from here. Look, you did U2, and then did this, and then you got this Ololo case, and now your main problem was that throughout the whole algorithm, you just kept using these U2 flicks instead of this, and it could have been just as fast as that if you were to have used those U2 flicks. Now, I don't know the V-perm algorithm that you did, but I did notice you use a rotation for it. So yeah, that's a no bueno. But I recently learned this algorithm. I also changed my V-perm as of recently as well. And now I use this one, which is like this: inverse sexy, R prime, FY prime, U prime, anti-soon, and then FY prime, R. And then I could do AUF. And now for the very fifth and final solve, these were all your white edges over here. And you ended up doing this. That also wasn't a bad cross either, but I thought the better solution was, instead of starting from here, you start on yellow on blue. And reason for that is because you could start with a back two, and then you could do a U. The back two brings up this blue edge, and once you stack it on top of the red, all you have to do is R prime F, and then finally finish off with that L2, which could have saved you an extra 2 moves. First pair, what you ended up doing was you didn't spot that this was all paired up, so you did a U2 like this, and then saw it, did a U2 like this, and then inserted. Something I do want to remind you is that obviously the better solution is just straight up insert the pair, but at your level, when you don't know what pair you're gonna do, it is okay to just pause and see what you're about to do next instead of all those turning, because once you do realize what you have to do, you're gonna be constantly noticing that you do have to turn back, or if you're lucky, it could be just right there in that angle for you. But that does kill time. For the next case, you ended up doing this pair over here, which you ended up doing like this. Now, again, it doesn't really matter because no matter which way you turn, it's gonna turn into a dyad case. But just in general, you never wanna rotate towards the front unless it's like your very last pair. But in terms of pair selection, the orange-blue was definitely something a lot better to go for. And it's a pretty easy aug when you have this case and this case. All you have to do is R, U, R prime, and it pairs up like this. And then you could just straight up insert towards the back. Third pair, you end up going for the green-red, and you ended up doing it like this. And then you ended up rotating the wrong way again, and it inserted like normal. Really cool trick you could do to solve this case, which would have also been a better solution, was doing U prime, and you know it's this case because this corner, this white corner is pointing away, and then these two colors match, and all you have to do is FY prime, L prime, F wide, and then you could have inserted towards the back. Your fourth pair, you ended up doing it correctly. At the end of it all, you ended up doing the standard aug, but again, before you even realized what case it was, you were doing a lot of this. You ended up getting the same exact cases as the previous solve, which I will give the same exact tips for, and then now you did G-perm just fine. For the very first main takeaway I have for this average of 5, which is most importantly, getting better at your finger tricks. Not only just for OLL, I pointed it out there where I saw the regrips and not using the W2 flicks, but also for F2L as well, because this will increase your turning speed a lot more. And just remember, you can't be a fast cuber without good turning. And for number 2, really tighten up on those really bad F2L solutions. And the number one way you can find out if it's bad is try to do some slow solves, and for each pair you do, try to count how many moves it takes you to do each pair. And if the move count is over 8 moves, then go ahead and search up like a proper aug for that case. For the third main takeaway, don't rotate towards the front to insert pairs, because again, this is gonna only make your spotting pairs a lot slower. Last tip I have, during inspection, make sure for your cross solutions, you're looking at every single angle that you could possibly do the cross in, just so you have a better option to solve it for. And that is all for this video, and I really hope this helps you along in your cubing journey. If it did, go ahead and like and subscribe for more cubing gains. And thank you guys so much for 200 subs. Peace out.